So you're thinking about making a move to Olympia, but you're not sure if it's right for you. So you want to know about the pros and the cons, the yin and the yang, the good and the bad, the Batman and the Joker per se of what it's like living right here in Olympia. Well, today's your lucky day. I'm going to help you out with that. And you're going to want to stick around to the end of this video. I think in this video, I'm going to share with you a con that there is no way you knew about and might be the deciding factor of whether or not you move here. And we're getting after it right now. All right, Chris, myself, and our team, we're getting phone calls, texts, and emails every single day from people just like you looking to make their move out here to Olympia. So whether you're looking at making a move in the next 3 days or 3 months, shoot us a phone call, text, or an email so we can help you make that smooth move out here to Olympia. And if you don't know everything going on right here in our local market, hit that subscribe button. Pro number one of living in Olympia has got to be that it is a political hub. Now, that could in your mind automatically be kind of a negative thing, like, well, I don't really want to be around politics. Hear me out. Some 80% of people that live and work in Olympia work right here at the state capitol. So being a political hub gives you a lot of opportunities to find not only a good job, but a good job with benefits, a good job with some form of a pension, and a job that can sustain recessions and economic downturns, which is a huge win. Not only that, but it also gives you an opportunity to get involved civically in the local community, take a bigger part in what's happening at the local and state level. There are some people that really do not like the way Olympia is handling the state of Washington, and just by living here, you could have more of a say in what goes on in our state than many people, because you can get face-to-face and belly-to-belly with people who are actually making changes.
One of the pros are some of the community events and fairs and activities that they have here in the town of Olympia. So we're actually standing to you right out front of the Olympia Farmers Market. So my wife and I actually spent some time down here earlier this summer checking out the farmers market, went to Anthony's for lunch right here on the waterway, and really enjoyed ourselves just hanging out here for the day in downtown Olympia. If I kind of flip the camera around, you can kind of see the town square and then the road right there that leads up to the state capitol. Some of the other things that happen here in the Olympia area during the summertime and community events are they have the Wooden Boat Festival. That is where they have, wooden boats that come out here, some of the big old-timey ships that come out that were, all made of wood. That's kind of a cool event. Another one is the Lakes Festival. That is part of the overall seafair celebration that Western Washington holds in the summertime. So that's one of Olympia's biggest festivals here in the area in the summertime is their Lakes Festival. That's held for a few days in August. They do things like parades, festival, carnival, all kinds of fun community activities for that. Other things that happen here in the Olympia area are going to be the Olympia Film Festival and some things like the farmers market, like right behind us here. So those are a few of the favorite things that we like to think about when we're thinking about community events and activities that happen here in the Olympia area. You've got the Olympia Farmers Market, you've got the Wooden Boat Festival, you've got the Lakes Festival, and the Olympia Film Festival here in the area. So if you are thinking about community events as one of the positive things about here in the Olympia area, those are a few of the things that we highly recommend you check out when you're living here in Olympia.
One major pro for Olympia has got to be its commitment to sustainability. Now, to some people, this means nothing, but one of the things that I've loved about relocating out here from the Midwest is the attention to taking care of the environment and taking care of one another that I see in Washington, just kind of in general. Olympia does things like really pours into its farmers market to keep farmers producing natural, healthy food. They have plans in place to protect wildlife and protect trees and nature, because this urban sprawl out here is growing, it is developing, it is pushing out pretty aggressively, but they do have plans in place to kind of take care of that. Not to mention things like recycling here are big. And instead of seeing, high-end fashion, you're more likely to see somebody who just left a consignment shop. Upcycling clothing is super popular here as well. And those little efforts really do pay out. They do make a difference in the way life is played out here. Now, Thurston County itself has an entire game plan for this. You can check on their website. In fact, you know what? I will link it down below. Everything from preserving, the natural beauty of this area to the salmon protection, keeping water clean, and virtually anything that you could ever imagine that a lot of places that I've came from or lived in have not had.
Hey, talking to you about some of the pros and cons of living here in Olympia. One of the biggest pros is proximity to nature here in Olympia. So one of the cool things here, we're actually standing right next to Capitol Lake, and look at that amazing view of the Capitol in the background there. So we have a proximity to nature here in Olympia, being that we're right here on the south end of the Puget Sound. So you've got the bay right there where you've got the marinas. Other things here in the area are going to be Capitol Forest. Capitol Forest is a place where my family and I love to camp. We camp there at least a couple of times a year. We ride our ATVs and our dirt bikes there in that area. You can actually hike. There's horseback riding in the forest as well, all kinds of trails for mountain biking, camping, off-roading, all kinds of cool stuff in Capitol Forest. You've also got Black Lake that's not too far from here in Olympia. And then as far as your proximity to the ocean, you are really close to Highway 101 that shoots out to the coast of Washington. So Ocean Shores, Westport, Seabrook, all kinds of cool places that really are close to the ocean if you love being at the beach and listening to the waves crash in. Some other things that are really close to the area here of Olympia are the Cascades. So you're not too far from Highway 12. That will take you up over into Eastern Washington or up into the Cascades to White Pass ski area. You've also got Packwood up in that direction. So really close to getting to the mountains within a couple of hours, really close to getting out to the beach within about an hour. You've got Capitol Forest here for camping and all kinds of things that you could do at the forest, and all kinds of amazing, just beautiful lakes here in Washington State. Now, those are some of the things that I see as one of the pros of living here in Olympia, is really just the proximity to nature and all the outdoor activities that you can do living here and being close to all of that. If you guys have more questions about living in Olympia or moving to Western Washington, we'd love to talk with you. We want to hear about it. We'd love to connect with you for a phone call, schedule a Zoom call.
As I mentioned earlier, about 80% of people who live and work in Olympia work in local government. So one of the biggest downsides I think about living in Olympia has got to be the job market. It kind of seems like either you're working here at the state level or the local government in some sort, or you have kind of a servicey job. I would say if you're not working in the government and you're not planning on starting your own business, might not be a bad idea being comfortable with the fact that you're probably going to be in some line of service if you don't have an education. So servers, bartenders, retail, things like that really stand out at the top of jobs here in Olympia next to government work.
Which is kind of depressing.
Don't see that same amount of technology, engineers, or the other things that we see in the Tacoma and Seattle area. So for me, this is a huge negative about living in Olympia. But of course, if you want to work in government, or if you're comfortable with a service job, or you have some kind of serious trade, that could offset that.
I would say one of the biggest cons, the biggest downfall to living in Olympia is the traffic. it can be absolutely brutal. You've got Highway 101 that comes in from the coast, the coastal highway. That drops directly into Olympia. You've also got all of the traffic coming into the capital because it's one of the major metropolitan areas here in Olympia, in Western Washington, in this area of the state. You've also got Joint Base Lewis McChord just to the north of us that has thousands and thousands of troops and service members coming and going every single day. So one of the biggest cons about living here in the Olympia area is definitely going to be the traffic. And really, because Olympia sits right here at the base of the Puget Sound area, and it sits right on top of Interstate 5, there's no getting around it. You have to get on I-5 to get anywhere north or south, really. And all of these other major highways that are feeding into it, and Olympia being one of the major metro areas in this area of Western Washington, the traffic is just terrible. So when you're looking at Google Maps and you're thinking, okay, it says it only takes 90 minutes or 60 minutes to get up into Seattle. Don't believe that. If you're lucky, it'll take you 90 minutes. If you're lucky, it'll only take that amount of time, but you're gonna have an accident happen. You're gonna have, somebody break down on the side of the road that's gonna completely ruin traffic and, ruin your momentum to get anywhere in a timely manner. Granted, you're going south of here. You don't have a lot south of us here as far as major metropolitan areas. So, getting south down to Portland, you're probably smooth sailing until you get down into Portland on I-5. But anything north of here, traffic's just going to be brutal. So I say that's probably one of the biggest downfalls of living here in Olympia is going to be the traffic, because you have I-5 that runs right smack dab through the middle of it. You got Highway 101 feeding in. You got JBLM just to the north of us. So traffic's a major headache if you're going to be living here in Olympia. Can't get around it.
Imagine you work here, any of these buildings, right? You're some form of an employee working at this state capitol. Chances are you're going to need to be traveling in and out quite a bit for work. That's just the reality of working for the government. One of the biggest downsides, in my personal opinion, and those that have talked to me, is that Olympia, being one of the smaller state capitals in the entire United States, only being about 55,000 people, it doesn't warrant, and therefore doesn't have, its own good-sized airport. Now, there's a tiny one for those that like to hobby, but you're not going to have that airport like you would if you were to live in Seattle or, even Tacoma. And I get what everybody says, right? Everybody says, oh, Seattle's 61 miles away. Look, this is why you have to reach out to us. We know this place like the back of our hand, inside and out, every neighborhood, every detail. Seattle's at least 90 minutes away. Plan everything in minutes and not miles. Be prepared for traffic. And that is just the facts. You're not getting to Seattle and SeaTac in an hour. If Olympia were to have its own large airport, then access for jobs would be so much easier. But the fact is, driving an hour and a half to 2 hours one way, that just sucks. And not to mention when you come back from your flight, now you're another hour and a half to 2 hour drive back home. That is exhausting. And therefore, I think not having a good airport in Olympia is a huge con. For our next con, I've got to say the weather. Now, honestly, I feel kind of dumb standing here in front of the water and the sailboats and the Olympic mountains and saying the weather. But listen, hear me out. It's summer, and Washington does have some of the most beautiful springs and summers that you will ever see in your life. There is a stunning breeze right now coming across me as I stand in the shade. There are sailboats playing in the background. Honestly, you couldn't ask for a better day. It's 75 degrees, but it's not like that all year. What I mean by that is when fall hits, the gray and the rain start to set in, and this becomes a huge negative for a lot of people. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think I have what's called reverse seasonal depression, where I love the gray and I love the rain, but that is definitely not everybody. So while our climate sits wonderfully at a 45 to 75 degree normal, when fall hits, the rain picks up and so does the gray. That causes a lot of people a lot of problems. So if you're gonna move here, I would say the same thing. Make sure you're taking vitamin D, talk to your doctor, especially if you struggle with depression or anything like that. And then to make it worse, as far as the weather goes, come Thanksgiving, we have what's called the big dark. This is a period of time where it just seems like it's dark all the time. Like you wake up, it's dark, you leave for work, it's dark, you come home from work, it's dark, your kid's got a football game, guess what? It's dark. And it's probably raining too. So that lasts from November to, you know, about January. You kind of have that really long dark period where you have like an 8.5 hour day, your shortest day. It's wild. Doesn't bother me, but it bothers a lot of people. And therefore a lot of people really can't stand the weather here in Olympia. So if rain is something you're not a big fan of, if gray is not something that you can handle, maybe make it rethink, you know, why this is such a big con for living out here in Olympia. All right, well, there you have it. The top pros and cons for moving and living right here in Olympia, Washington. So whether you're looking, if that makes sense for you, whether you're looking at moving here today, tomorrow, 3 days, or 3 months, shoot us a phone call, text, or an email so that we can help make that smooth move out here to Olympia. And until next time, I cannot wait till you're out here so we can show you around.